Welcome to Around the World in 80 Bottles. I'm Emily Garrison, and we are continuing our tour through Australia by cooking one of my favorite fish, which is barramundi. And barramundi is an Australian sea bass. On my first trip to Australia, I had barramundi on a plate where the whole fish was literally not even contained by the plate, and there were wonderful juices and vegetables underneath. It was fantastic, and it actually is what started me taking pictures of my food because it was so beautiful and delicious. Now, what I've tried to do every time I can is to recreate that at home. And the difficulty I found in doing this for you at home is in actually making a real recipe out of my little throw everything in one pot. So I'm going to do the best I can to do justice to the wonderful meal I had in Nelson Bay, and I think you'll enjoy this at home. Now, barramundi, if you've never heard of it, is an Australian sea bass. If you can't get barramundi, you can use any kind of wild striped bass instead, but what you're looking for is a very mild, delicate flavor with a little bit of extra oomph to it. I know that doesn't really make sense with the mild and the oomph, but what you don't want is a hefty fish, and what you don't want is a bland fish. So we're talking more like your standard bass. You want the skin on for this one for a little added flavor as well. So the assembly of this is really all it comes down to. And we're going to use some eggplant, and just remember, anytime you use eggplant, you want to cut it into pieces, sprinkle some sea salt on there or some kosher salt, and I let mine sit with the salt on it for at least an hour, and then I blot it, flip it over, and then do the same thing. You really want to brine eggplant because if you've ever had eggplant that's kind of stringy, it's because it's not brine. You need to bring out some of that added moisture, which is going to make the eggplant a lot more tender. So I've already done that on either side with the eggplant and done it in a very thick dice. And I'm just going to drop that right in there in my pan. Now this pan has in it 1.5 pounds of barramundi. So it's having a hard time, kind of like my plate that I had in Australia, it's having a hard time containing it. What we're going to do for this, instead of serving a whole fish, is we're going to cut it up into portions and serve it. But it actually will cook its best this way. Then we're going to take our mushrooms, and you can use any kind of mushrooms you want. I, a lot of times, will buy dry mushrooms, and you just soak them and then use them, but I love using crazy odd mushrooms for this dish. Then we want some ginger. Now this is the start of our broth. Basically it's a all-in-one dish, so everything's self-contained. You've got your vegetables to serve on the side, you've got your fish that you're going to serve, and then you've got your broth. So everything is all in this one pot. Don't you love one pot dinners where you don't have to do a whole lot of cleanup? And I'm using my Le Creuset, so my cleanup's going to take me about 2 seconds once I'm finished with this. Now I like to do an even distribution of stock, and you can use fish stock, vegetable stock, chicken stock, it doesn't matter. I use olive oil, and my rule on olive oil is the same as using wine in cooking. If I wouldn't eat it, I don't like to use it. However, I don't always use my $20 a bottle olive oil when I'm cooking. And then I'm actually going to use a little more white wine than the rest of it because the wine's going to cook down and give everything so much more moisture. Now my rule on white, as you know, is don't use it to cook in if you wouldn't drink it. I've found that a lot of times I don't finish white wine, so what I do is I keep that in the refrigerator, and the next time I need to make a sauce, I already have one ready to go that technically I wouldn't drink, but it's not because the quality's low, it's just because it might be, 4 days old. So I'm going to put that right over the top. And we basically covered our fish at this point. There's a little bit peeking up, and I'm just going to, I think we might do a little bit more. Let's do a tiny bit more olive oil just over the fish. And then a little more white wine never hurt anybody, right? Let's just do a tiny bit more. And at this point, everything's going to take care of itself in the pot. And I'm going to cover this and just put it on my stovetop for 15 minutes. Okay, so once we got finished cooking our fish, I have pulled it out onto here. Now if you don't have enough, it depends on the size of your fish. If you don't have enough liquid to actually cover the fish, you may have to turn it over once during cooking. So I've taken it out, and then I cooked the vegetables down for another 10 minutes just to reduce the sauce down. You've got two options on the ginger. You can either move it to the side and avoid it, or pull it out all together. It's pretty easy to skip over if you don't really feel like picking through the entire thing. In my mind, I'm going to pick through it to look for it. Why not just pick through while I'm pulling out my vegetables? Okay, this smells so good. I only wish you could smell it at home. So we've poured over all of our vegetables and a lot of our sauce. I kept a little bit of the sauce in the pan, so if we need extras when people start digging in, I've got them ready. And of course, this is beautiful with a New Zealand Pinot Noir. I've actually picked Roaring Meg today, which is from Mount Difficulty. Great little estate in New Zealand, and it's got an elegance to it that I think will be nice with the fish. This fish dish could go either way with white or red, and I really wanted to go with a light red to enhance the mushrooms and the eggplant that give it a little more earthiness. Oh, I'll see. That's why I've been making this for 10 years. 8 years. I don't even remember after I've eaten it. Wow. You're gonna love this. And the lightness of the Pinot Noir just hits all those notes. The ginger is so intense. There's so much full flavor from the eggplant and mushroom, and at the same time you can't overwhelm the fish. And so this has all those great elements of earthiness without being heavy. I am going to say goodbye today so I can consume a little bit more of my barramundi, but I hope you'll enjoy this dish as much as I have, and I hope you'll join us next time on Around the World in 80 Bottles. Cheers!